In other news, a few days before children were meant to go back to school in Britain last month, the Education Ministry ordered urgent inspections of schools built with reinforced autoclaved aerated concrete, or RAAC. Now, the material was used widely in the mid to late 20th century, but much of it is degrading faster than expected, with the potential for collapse. Stuart Smith reports.
It was August when the UK's Health and Safety Executive announced RAAC is now life expired and liable to collapse with little or no notice. That surprised a lot of school administrators, who then had to announce, in some cases with just 1 day's warning, that pupils would not be able to return as planned after the summer holidays, so urgent inspections could take place. Over a month later, one secondary school in North East England is still on a rota system, meaning pupils only enjoy face-to-face learning a few days a week.
They want to be back in school, they want that routine, they want to be with their friends, and they want to be learning and working and getting on. The buildings are completely unsuitable for use now, and we need something as soon as possible so that our kids, like I say, can be in school all the time.
The fact it came to this, when the dangers of RAAC installations have been known for years, has incensed parents and provided ammunition to the opposition Labour Party.
Isn't he ashamed that after 13 years of Tory government, children are cowering under steel supports, stopping their classroom roof falling in?
The government emphasises that RAAC was found in only 174 of 22,000 schools, and it will be covering the repair bill wherever RAAC is found in public buildings, which could cost hundreds of millions of US dollars.
We are assigning each of those schools a dedicated caseworker and providing extra funding to fix the problem. In the majority of cases, children will attend school as normal, and the mitigations take typically just days or weeks to complete.
The RAAC crisis isn't just affecting schools, it's closing other public buildings like courts and hospitals too, but it isn't necessarily the material that's to blame. At England's Loughborough University, experts are trying to work out the limits of old RAAC and what causes it to become a danger.
So here you have standard concrete. You see very dense, a lot of coarse aggregate, and you have cement as well. Here, RAAC, almost no coarse aggregate and a lot of bubbles. So this porous structure, which is intended as a feature to make it light.
When Britain was rebuilding after World War II, RAAC was an innovation, quicker to install and often cheaper than concrete. But it's only in the last few years there's been intense study into how it degrades, now done using a mixture of computer modelling and practical experiments.
So as the material ages, its properties might change, the performance will change, and the way it behaves will change as well in the structure. So, contrary to what we see with concrete, we are observing certain patterns of behavior in this material that we were not aware of initially.
With this material already in use across hundreds of public and possibly far more private buildings, the experts at Loughborough have been drafted in to determine how to inspect them. Like any material, if neglected, abused or overloaded, the way it behaves can change, and they've found signs it wasn't always installed or manufactured correctly.
We were trying to understand why we got this catastrophic collapse in an unexpected collapse in the school. And through the research, what we realised that there were problems with the manufacture of RAAC, and particularly where the reinforcement bar, the transverse reinforcement bar, is positioned over the bearing. So the manufacturers recommended that you have a bearing of around 40 millimetres, but what we found on sites is that sometimes we can have bearings as little as 20 millimetres.
The timeline for replacing old RAAC depends largely on how much was used in each building. For some schools, that means a couple of weeks' work. For some courts, it'll be months before they reopen. And for some entire hospitals, which will need to be completely replaced, the government target to remove all RAAC is 2035. Urgent inspections are taking place in public and private buildings across the country, but until they're surveyed by experts, there remains a danger.
So until we've inspected and sampled across the stock, we don't have a good understanding of the risks that are hidden, the latent risks.
So far, no one has been injured by any of the collapses associated with RAAC, but engineers note the disruption to education, justice and healthcare are a stark reminder of how critical proper maintenance and inspections are. Stuart Smith, CNA, London.